Of the day, and welcome to Celebrate Innovation Week. I just want to do some housekeeping things, and then I'll turn it over. And so, first of all, welcome to the students here. Welcome to the students that are watching on the DMAC stream. We have a stream going out to several of our other campuses, and those students are participating in the event as well. And welcome to those from the public that are here attending today. Just a couple things. We got programs, some great articles from past and present presenters, so check that out. It also has a schedule. If you flip it over, it's in the back. We have a bookstore under the stairs over here, books from past and present speakers, including our next one, Artificial Intelligence and the End of the Human Era. I hope it's much more positive than this sounds. Okay, but it looks like a wonderful book. I'm a little scared, but I'm very intrigued as well. So definitely check out those books. Reminder, students, pick up your stamp cards if you have not. At the end of the presentation, make sure you get that stamped. I also highly suggest you sign it. That way, if you drop it, we can return that to you. And make sure you hang on to them so you can get your credit when you come back after spring break. Also after spring break, once you've turned this into all your teachers, got your signatures and your credit, we are going to have a box to deposit these in, and we will have a drawing for some prizes and some Celebrate Innovation Week swag for you, so a little extra bonus. Please, if you have not done so already, silence your phones. We'd appreciate that. After the presentation and throughout the day, if you want to tweet about the event, that'd be great. At DMAC West, hashtag ciWeek. We will have the cafe open at lunchtime in the back, so you can grab some lunch there if you would like. And after the presentation, we ask that you remain in your seats so we can escort our presenter out the back and into the meet and greet room. Okay. And lastly, two more things. Really want to say a huge thank you to all the faculty, the staff, our marketing department, everybody who's helped put this event on. It takes a lot of work, and we really appreciate that. And this event is not possible without all of our wonderful sponsors. And with that, I'm going to bring up, and actually, let's give our sponsors a round of applause. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Han from West Bank, our presenting sponsor for this presentation. So, give him a round of applause.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. This truly is one of the best events that I go to year to year. And we are also very proud, West Bank, to be a sponsor for this event, to able to bring these wonderful speakers to here. As I said, as Dave said, my name is Han. Han Wu with West Bank. West Bank is a community bank here in Iowa that serves central Iowa and eastern Iowa. We also serve now Rochester, Minnesota, the market up there. West Bank is the oldest business in West Des Moines because we're celebrating 125 years in existence in West Des Moines. So that truly is remarkable. My responsibility at the bank is information technology. So as a role that I do, I also wonder about the implications and also the applications of artificial intelligence. So that's why I was really excited that we're given the opportunity to present our next speaker, who is an expert on artificial intelligence. But not only is he an expert on AI, he's also a filmmaker. He made many films for channels like Discovery, PBS, and Discovery, and oh, I'm sorry, I said that, National Geographic, missed that one, and many other broadcasters in US and Europe. And as David mentioned, he's also an author that wrote the book, Final Invention, the Artificial Intelligence in the Human Era. I hope he's not gonna tell us Skynet's gonna come online and bring Terminators back. So, with that in mind, I will help me welcome our next speaker, James Barrat, to help us explore into the unknown world of AI.
Thank you very much, Han. This is on now. Before I get started, does everybody know what natural language processing is? Does everybody know what natural language? One example is when you speak to your phone, it sends a packet of information to a transmission tower. It sends that to California to a processing center. It unwraps it, figures out what you asked, bounces it back to a transmission tower, back to your phone, and answers you. That's why Siri takes so long. So, and other digital assistants. So a famous AI professor was frustrated with this, and he wanted more money, and he went to his dean, and he took some robots with him, and he had a megaphone, and he said, "What do we want?" And the robot said, "Natural language processing." And the professor said, "When do we want it?" And the robot said, "When do we want what?" I want to thank Dr. Faustian for inviting me and for putting together this great innovation week. I was looking for a thread in common with these wonderful speakers, and there are all there's so many world-class adventurers. There's a musician. There's people that have really gone to the back of beyond, to hell and back, and they've brought us these insights that we can really use in our lives. I have a story to tell on our last speaker. Jill and I were on an expedition boat about almost 10 years ago in the Bahamas for a month. And what she didn't tell you about cave diving is it's probably the most dangerous thing you can do. We were sitting around the dinner table on that boat one night, and I asked the people there, "How many bodies have you taken out collectively as a group?" We had about 6 or 7 divers. "How many bodies of cave divers have you taken out of caves?" And there were probably 7 people there, and they had taken out 100. And so what she does is truly extraordinary. And so every day she would go down in the blue hole with her team, and I would be up on top with my team, my sound guy and my cameraman, and we'd wait for them to come back. And the same thing hit me every day across my mind. If they don't come back, we're going to have a really short film. And it's great to reconnect with her after all this time. I've also gone to hell and back, and I'm bringing you some insights, and I want you to go on a journey with me for 45 minutes. And at the end of that journey, I think you'll think a little bit differently about artificial intelligence, its promise and its peril. And I also think you'll probably agree with me that this conversation about AI risk is the most important one we could be having right now. I came back from my trip with a book called Our Final Invention. The reason I wrote the book is because the AI revolution that's upon us now is incredibly large, and it's hard to measure, and it's hard to measure how much it's going to impact our lives. One way to measure it is with money. Since 2009, $50 billion have been invested in AI and automation controlled by AI. And by 2025, according to McKinsey & Company, that space will be worth between $10 and $20 trillion of value, making it the biggest sector of the economy. Another way to measure it, Gartner & Company says by the same year, 2025, 1/3 of all jobs will be taken by AI and automation. By 2040, 1/2 of all jobs. The way I like to think about it, my favorite way of thinking about the AI revolution upon us is that everything that's electrified will be cognitized. Everything that's electrified will be cognitized. Intelligence will be added to everything that's electric. So everything in your house, all your appliances, your phone of course, but all your appliances, your house itself, factories, inventory. Think about smart inventory. Inventory that says, I'm here, products that say, I'm here. I toured a factory in Russia where the products being built on an assembly line told the factory what parts they needed. So the success of the AI revolution won't depend on whether everything that's electrified will be cognitized. It will be. It'll depend on a much older concept of ethics. Have I built the system right is an engineering question. Have I built the system right? Have I put the parts together right? Have I built the right system is an ethics question. If in the course of developing AI we find that our inventions are as wonderful as they promise to be in science, in medicine, in education, the advances of AI, if they're positive, then the revolution will be positive. If they're exploitive or dangerous or uncontrollable, on the other hand, the AI revolution will be very short and very painful. It's a good time to be involved in the whole AI risk conversation. In 2009, when I really started burrowing deep into this, as I said to students, you could fit everybody involved in the conversation into a phone booth. And of course, they'd say, what's a phone booth? But then Stephen Hawking came out and said, in the short term, we have to worry about who controls the AI. In the long term, we have to worry about, can we control the AI at all? And Elon Musk came out and said, we're summoning the demon. He said he invests in AI, not to generate more investment income, but to keep his eye on the technology and see how it's advancing and make sure it's safe. And then Bill Gates, who was once upon a time an elite programmer, and now the richest man in the world, said, we're going to get short-term benefits from AI for sure, medicine, science. Self-driving cars are going to save a lot of lives. But again, in the long term, he said, we're going to have a problem controlling it. And he said he was surprised that more people weren't aware of that, weren't thinking about that. A couple of months ago, China came out and said by 2030 they want to dominate AI. And then almost as if to respond, Vladimir Putin came out about a month ago and said AI is going to provide many colossal opportunities, but also threats that are difficult to predict. Whoever becomes the leader in the sphere will become ruler of the world. It sounds like it sounds like something Dr. Evil would say. Suddenly the phone booth got very crowded. I've written a book called Our Final Invention, but my usual job is to make documentary films, and I've made a lot for National Geographic. There's the one up there on the far right is the one Jill and I made together in the Bahamas in 2010, and you can Google extreme cave diving, and it's still out there. And I got bitten by the AI bug doing documentary films. I interviewed Ray Kurzweil. Does everybody know who Ray Kurzweil is? Ray Kurzweil is an elite inventor. He won the Thomas Edison Prize. And now he's working for Google on their big brain project because he's been thinking about how to create human-level intelligence in a machine since before 2000, since the 90s. And he was very positive about the time to come when we share the planet with smarter than human machines. And I interviewed Rodney Brooks, who founded iRobot, which brought us the Roomba, and he also founded Rethink Robotics, which now makes factory robots. And he was also saying, this is not an alien invasion. These are machines that we'll make, we'll nurture, and they'll all benefit us. And then I had the extreme pleasure of interviewing Arthur C. Clarke. I got to go to Sri Lanka. And I spent a whole day with him, which was really one of the most fabulous days of my life. And he said, you know, he created before he was a science fiction writer, he was a scientist. He created the HAL 9000, also on the screen, the homicidal robot from 2001, A Space Odyssey. It was a book before it was a collaboration to make the movie. And that was his expression of his angst about the nature of intelligence. And he said something like, intelligence will win out in whatever form, human or machine or a combination. But intelligence is the superpower. He said, we steer the future not because we're the fastest creature or the strongest. We steer the future because we're the most intelligent. And when we share the planet with something more intelligent than we are, they will steer the future. And until then, I'd been pretty besotted with AI. I'd read Kurzweil's Age of Spiritual Machines. I was going to AI conferences. It was all go. And then this stuck in my mind, and it festered, and started me thinking about the downside. And I started talking to AI makers, and I asked them this question. The question was, in 100 years, will machines be making the most important decisions in our lives? And 100% of the AI makers said, yes, they will. And then I followed up, and my follow-up question became the subject of my book. And the follow-up question was, will it be a handover or a takeover? Will we cede our decisions to these machines because they're helpful and beneficial, or will our volition not really count anymore? So, as we start this journey, now it's gone from 45 minutes, it's probably about 40 minutes now. Let's start with some basic definitions. What is artificial intelligence that everyone is talking about? What is artificial intelligence? Can everybody read this? And this is, you can see how the definition of artificial intelligence throws the ball right back to humans, because it's really about human intelligence and what we're trying to put into machines. And here's a gateway thought for you. If you think that AI is boring and it's where the nerds gather and that's the part of the library, it is, but it's also this. Here's the gateway thought. Just the way gateway drugs lead to better drugs, gateway thoughts lead to more profound thoughts. It's the most inward looking of any of the sciences. Artificial intelligence is the most inward-looking of any of the sciences. It asks us, it probes more deeply than anything else what we are, who we are, what we are as a species, what is our superpower. It involves psychology and logic and mathematics and neuroscience, the study of the brain. It involves perception. How do you change a percept? How do you see something and change it to a concept that you remember? What happens there? You can show a little girl a cat, a live cat, and that little girl will remember for the rest of her life what a cat is. You have to show a machine 1,000 pictures of cats and 1,000 pictures of dogs for them to tell the difference. So what's happening there? So it's asking in a very profound way, what are we? What are we? Who are we? And then, of course, what is intelligence? What's that funny thing? Now, in this talk, and in computers generally, I'm not talking about emotional intelligence or musical intelligence or spatial intelligence or all the other kinds of intelligence. There are many kinds. I'm talking about logical and mathematical intelligence, the kind that we're trying to build into machines. And I got this definition from Shane Legg, who's the co-founder of DeepMind, which has been doing great things in AI recently. And he wrote down 100 definitions of intelligence, and this is the one that he recommended when I talked to him about intelligence. And there's a lot packed into this. It says that you've got the intelligence, for it to be valuable, has to achieve goals. So it's got to do something, whether that's theorem proving or translation or object recognition or driving a car or doing any of those things. And the more the better, it says, in a variety of novel environments. So it's not enough to do search. That's narrow intelligence. If you just do search, you're doing narrow intelligence. If you're just driving a car, that's also narrow intelligence. If you can do a bunch of these things, you approach general intelligence in a variety of domains. And that's more like our intelligence. And the other feature of our intelligence that's really powerful is learning. All the animals in the world are born with all the capabilities they'll ever have, pretty much, except for you. You can teach some animals some novel things, but not very much. But we learn. So you can play your tuba and then read a book and then get in a car and drive it to your chess match. And somewhere in the world that's probably happening right now. A guy's been playing his tuba and he's going, gosh, I have a little time, I could read before I drive to my chess match. And that might be ultimately the secret. That's why there's a whole branch of AI called machine learning. Learning is so key to intelligence. So all of these things set a high bar on intelligence. This definition, what we are trying to create in machines, sets a high bar on intelligence. It means intelligence is pretty difficult. So how difficult is it to make human-level intelligence in a machine? Let's start our own little survey right now. So who thinks that given time, scientists can make human-level intelligence in a machine? Please raise your hand. Who thinks? Okay, good. And there's no right answer to this, by the way, because we don't know yet. If you didn't raise your hand, then you think either the problem is too hard in an engineering sense, that we'll just keep bouncing against that, the problem of human-level intelligence, or there's something about the brain that can't be duplicated in a machine. Who thinks the problem is too hard for humans? Wow, one. Okay. Who thinks there's something about the brain that just isn't going to be copied? Okay, so 90% of the AI makers, and of course they're a biased crowd, but 90% of the AI makers thought the problem is not too hard, we can do it given time. And they put it like this, in a typical engineering way. They say, the brain is a organization of molecules whose output is intelligence. And we, as scientists, can put together an organization of molecules whose output is intelligence. We can do that. About 5% said the problem is too hard, that no matter what we do, we'll just keep bouncing off it. And about another 5% thought there's something about the brain that we're just never going to get. I'm with the 90%. I don't think there's anything magical about the brain. So then when? And this is the question I can't help it. I keep trying to shake this when. When are we going to create human-level intelligence in a machine? When is the singularity going to come? That's what Ray Kurzweil calls the singularity. When we have human-level intelligence in a machine and beyond. So when I polled AI makers, they said the mean date was 2045. The outside date was about 2100. The close date was 2029, and that's Ray Kurzweil's date. And Ray Kurzweil has been very good about estimating when technological milestones will occur. And so this idea possessed me. I'm going to come back to it. When's this going to happen? Because it's very interesting. We all wonder, you know, should I start a long novel? Should I or not? Or should I? A 30-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage. And then Gary Marcus, who's an AI maker and writer and psychologist, and he writes for the New Yorker, reviewed my book for the New Yorker magazine, and he said this. He said, it's likely that machines will be smarter than us before the end of the century, not just at chess or trivia, but about everything from math to engineering to science and medicine. So a century from now, nobody will much care how long it took to create superintelligence in a machine, only what happened next. In other words, will we be ready? Will it surprise us, or will we be prepared? Stephen Hawking put it like this: if we got a note from a vastly superior intelligence, an alien intelligence, that said, we're going to drop by in 20 years, would we just sit back and say, yeah, we'll leave the lights on, come on, come for a visit? Or would we get together and really try to get ready? So how do we get from the machines in our pockets? We have these supercomputers in our pockets. How do we get from IBM's Watson, which most people have heard of, the Jeopardy winning program machine, IBM's Watson, the smartphones in your pocket, how do we get to superintelligence? Or how do we get to greater than human intelligence? And here comes a card full of, a slide full of words. When you read a book about speaking, they always say, don't put a slide full of words. So I went out and put slides full of words. This is the last one with a lot of words. And I'm going to give you time to read it. I'll give you 20 seconds. I.J. Good was a fascinating man. I wish I had an hour to tell you about him. He worked with Alan Turing at Bletchley Park, defeating the Enigma codes that the Germans were using for military transmissions. He was the second best chess player in the UK, and they drafted him. He taught Turing how to play chess, and Turing taught him how to play Go, the Asian game. And it's interesting how chess and Go have come back in the last 20 years to be milestones for. Turing was a world-class runner, and so he invented a version of chess where you make a move and you run around his whole house and come back, and if you get back before your opponent has made his move, you get 2 moves. And that's how he could beat I.J. Good, because I.J. Good was not a great runner. He was I.J. Good came to the United States as a celebrity statistician, because once upon a time there was such a thing. He went to Virginia Tech, where he was paid more than the president. And here's another funny, past as prelude. He was analyzing an artificial neural network, the first. He was analyzing that when he came up with the intelligence explosion idea. Artificial neural nets are very prominent right now. They're the dominant technique that we're seeing make great headway in AI. So what he says in this is that if humans make a machine that's as intelligent and then more intelligent than we are, ultimately it'll be good at everything that we do. One of the things we do is make smart machines. So once the machines are making smart machines, then they will set the pace of intelligence acceleration, not us. He calls that the intelligence explosion. I think his theorem is good, but I put it slightly differently in a slide with fewer words. We've already created machines that are better than humans at Go, Jeopardy, and tasks like navigation and search. They're better at some jobs like analyzing legal documents now, this has just happened, and detecting cancer in x-rays. At some point, probably within the next 2 decades, we'll create machines that are better than humans at artificial intelligence, R&D. How close are we to that? Well, we have software that writes software. We have various software techniques that generate software. We have genetic algorithms that create software. We have debuggers that analyze software and come up with improvements. And then something happened that really shook me up in the last 4 months. And I won't drag you down the whole history of gaming, AI against games, but it used to be that when you wanted AI to beat something like chess, you had to show it a lot of chess games, and that's how Deep Blue ultimately beat Garry Kasparov. It had a collection of 200,000 chess games. When AlphaGo is a program put out by DeepMind. It defeated the world Go champions. It saw something like 200,000, 300,000 Go games, so it could refer to them during play. But then DeepMind did something amazing with AlphaGo Zero. It didn't show it any games. It only showed it the rules. So how did it get better? Because within 2 weeks, it became the best Go player in the world, human or machine. It beat its predecessor. How did it get better? A technique called, you've heard of deep learning. Deep learning is an artificial neural net technique using a lot of nets in a big pile. It played against itself in a process called deep adversarial learning. It split off part of itself and played against itself, and then generated a better version of its algorithm. So it came very close to I.J. Good's idea, except for one thing. It's I.J. Good's idea about self-improving machines. It's very narrow. It only does Go. But you can extrapolate from that pretty easily into other tasks, like if you can reduce anything to a strategy game, AlphaGo Zero can be put on it. And you can see how pools of expertise can grow. You could put it on translation, you could put it on navigation, you could put it on driving a car, you could put it on playing a tuba, all the things that we do, object recognition. You could put it, and you could see how these pools of expertise could grow until you had a general intelligence. So you can see how this thinking about AI in this way, and the way that DeepMind does, could lead to a general intelligence in time. So right now there's a race to create superintelligent machines, whether you know it or not. And here's some of the contestants. Contestant number one is Google. They have $200 billion in cash that they can spend on things. Ray Kurzweil is now the head of the Google Brain Project. To me, this is like the Los Alamos of AI. They have a lot of money, they have a lot of talent, and they have a giant stated drive to create human-level intelligence in a machine and beyond. Ray Kurzweil wants, his ambition, as he stated, is to make a machine that makes 100 trillion calculations per second, and to share that with 1 billion people online. And what is that? That's superintelligence as a commodity, which would be really, really good and useful for solving a lot of issues. Climate change, cancer, science issues. Who wouldn't want superintelligence to be a commodity that we could use? But also weapons development. As Stephen Hawking said, superintelligence would be able to outsmart our smartest politicians. Low bar. But it would also be able to create weapons we don't even understand. So candidate number one is Google. They're pretty far up there. DeepMind is the company that Google bought, and smartly they're keeping them separate. They're not mixing them with the Google crowd. They're keeping them over in the UK where they can do innovative things that aren't directly by Google. They're the ones who came up with AlphaGo and AlphaGo Zero that we just spoke about. They're up to some amazing things. I look at that company, I just don't know what's next. But my favorite and my vote for the cognitive architecture that's in their lead right now is IBM's Watson. And why is that? Watson is famous for, in February 2011, it defeated the best humans at the show Jeopardy. And Jeopardy, if you've played it, as we all have against the television, is pretty complicated. It's not a toy project. It involves a deep knowledge of sports, movies, trivia of all kinds, kings, queens, presidents, music. You've got to know a lot. You've got to be fast at drawing that information. So that's pretty good. But it's beating the best humans was impressive. But what was more impressive is what it's done since. Watson has taken the federal medical licensing exam. So if it were a human, it could be a physician. But it can be a physician's assistant. It can do diagnostics. It can detect cancer cells in X-rays better than humans right now. It also does legal discovery, which is what first-year law associates do. And it does it better than humans. It analyzes contracts now better than humans, scores higher on finding problems in legal contracts. If you pour in the rough data of your business, the unstructured data of your business into Watson, it will spit out a well-written annual report, and it will give you tips on how to run your business better next year. And it will answer questions. So this is all kind of new. You know, we expect that certain numbers of jobs and certain kinds of jobs will be replaced, but we didn't really expect these middle-class jobs and these thinking jobs to be replaced. What's happening right now is there are 5 million professional drivers in the United States whose jobs are on the chopping block. These are truck drivers, bus drivers, delivery people, taxi drivers. When self-driving cars come along, they'll have to be retrained for something else that presumably robots can't do. There are about 5 million bookkeepers in the United States whose jobs are going to be replaced by AI, and the list goes on, and we're kind of used to it. Some other jobs, postal workers, clerical workers, pharmacists, all the data entry clerks, all the travel agents. When was the last time you used a travel agent? Expedia is my travel agent, for better or worse. So if you had to ask what is the state of cognitive technologies, of smart machines in 2018, you'd have to say it's pretty good because they're taking a lot of jobs and they're teed up to take a lot of middle-class jobs. As Gartner and company said, by 2025, 1/3 of all jobs, by 2040, 50% of all jobs. So you'd have to say that either we're not so hard to beat or they're doing very well. I'd prefer to say that they're doing very well. But let's go back to that question about Watson and human-level intelligence. It's going to take McDonald's jobs. Let's go back to Watson and human-level intelligence in a machine and how long it will take. Even though Gary Marcus said don't worry about how long it will take, I still worry about how long it will take. One key is who's investing in it. And a lot of companies are investing in it, and they want to make, in fact, it's become job number one for a lot of companies, and not just companies, but countries. And they've stated this as a goal. Here's a short list of companies that are trying to make human-level intelligence in a machine. Now, why would you want that? In fact, Ray Kurzweil, besides making this online product, he estimates that by 2029, we'll have human-level intelligence in a computer at computer prices. So $1,000 of computing in 2029, he thinks, will give you a laptop that has all the intellectual capabilities of a human. Why would that be a good product? Why would that? Well, it would be probably the most lucrative product in the history of the world, which is why these companies are all, and these countries are all gunning for it. And then there's the opportunity, according to Vladimir Putin, to control the world. What these companies have in common is they know that the way steam powered the 19th century and the way electricity powered the 20th century, AI will fuel the innovations and advances of the 21st century. This is really AI's century. So what could possibly go wrong? We've covered a lot of ground in our journey. We're probably past the halfway mark. We've talked about the intelligence explosion and how in the normal course of business, companies will be driven to create machines that improve their own software. We've talked about the giant wind that's pushing the development of artificial general intelligence. What's different and what could go wrong, what makes it dangerous is sort of two things. One is we've never created a technology before that could outwit us. We have created technologies before that were stronger than us. We created the tractors. Some people's jobs were taken. We've created, cars that are faster than us. Some horses were displaced. But by and large, people could be retrained for other jobs, but we've never had a technology that could outsmart us. And that's why it goes from unskilled labor deep into the middle class. But still, that's not AI turning against us. What could make AI dangerous? Well, Steve Omohundro set out for himself a very difficult task. He wanted to make a science for understanding superintelligence. And you think that would be impossible because how do you create a science for understanding something that's smarter than you? Don't you have to be that smart yourself? So he applied rational agent economic theory to superintelligence to understand how it would behave. Now, just very briefly, I don't want to dive into an economics course, but rational agent economic theory says that people will buy and sell according to their goals and preferences, which economists call their utility function. So rational agent economic theory was created to help Wall Street figure out who was going to buy and sell what. It didn't work for humans, because humans aren't rational. We impulse buy, we buy the wrong things, we buy when no one's looking, we sell when no one's looking. We're just totally not rational. But rational agent economic theory should work with logic-based machines, like computers. So he applied this to superintelligence and derived that goal-driven rational systems will develop basic drives. Whether they're mining asteroids or a very powerful search engine, they'll need resources to achieve their goals. Whether that resource is electricity or cash or Bitcoin or whatever, they'll need resources. So they'll be resource acquiring. They won't want to be unplugged, because that's the worst thing that could happen to their goal achieving. If you remember our definition of intelligence, if you're intelligent, you're doing something. Being unplugged would be the worst thing that could happen to you if you're trying to achieve goals. So they'll become self-protective, and that's a little, it's a little bit scary. They'll be efficient, because they won't know how long their resources will last. They won't have perfect knowledge about the world. And then the one that gets scary, and I write about it extensively in my book, is they'll become creative. Alejandro writes, since improving their own software will be one obvious route to goal success, they'll grow their own intelligence at supercomputer speed. That means rational behavior will drive already intelligent machines to become experts at AI development, as I.J. Good predicted. Rational behavior dictates that given enough resources, machines will become self-improving. That's the recipe for the intelligence explosion. Then we're sharing the planet with machines that are 1,000 or 1,000,000 times more intelligent than we are. Now here's the rub. Being friendly isn't on Alejandro's list. Rational agent economic theory does not say that superintelligent machines will be friendly. Being friendlier, being smarter doesn't mean being kinder. Superintelligent machines won't be dangerous because they'll try to overthrow us, but for any goal the machines might have, it will be useful for them to use all available resources, and all available resources include virtually everything on the planet, which is why AI thinker Eliezer Yudkowsky said, the AI does not love you, nor does it hate you, but you're made of atoms it can use for something else. So unless we are very careful about how we program these machines, we'll create these very, very powerful amoral machines that may be, according to theorists, self-protective, creative, able to outwit us. Now, the obvious solution would be to give the machines some ethics. And this is where the conversation gets back to human dimensions. Let's just give them some ethics. Let's give them Asimov's 4 laws, or 3 laws plus 1, which don't really work. If you want to know why, you have to read the first chapter of my book. Let's make them more like us. Let's give them ethics. But here's in a nutshell, here's the problem with ethics. If we started with something very simple, like preserve human life, we would get in a big fight in this room about when human life begins, right? And if we took this argument around the world, we would get in a big fight everywhere we went. So we can't make a rule as simple and reach a consensus on something as simple as that. And if we could, then, so ethics change with geography. They also change over time. If we codified a basic list of ethics of 10 rules or 20 rules, in 100 years they would seem hopelessly archaic, just like the laws of 100 years ago, which, in some places included slavery, women as chattel, that's probably 200 years ago, would seem archaic to us. So the problem is kind of diabolical. It seems to be, let's give ethics to these machines, but what it turns out to be is, let's create an intuitive machine, because what we really need are machines that know what's best for us, that look at our situation, look at our past, look at our goals and preferences as humans, and have to intuit what's best for us, and then we have to give them executive power. So the problem is actually much harder, because we don't know anything about intuition. We don't know how to program intuition. We could sort of program ethics, but intuition's a whole other thing. But The dilemma we're in is we have the haziest concept of how to program intuition, empathy, or friendliness, but these are the concepts that will keep us alive when we share the planet with smarter than human machines. And the good news part is over. Sorry. While some people are trying to create friendly AI, some other people are trying to create really, really unfriendly AI. In fact, they'll be very disappointed if the AI is friendly. There are 50 nations trying to develop battlefield robots. The most sought after will be autonomous. They'll make the kill decision without a human in the loop. These weapons are out of the lab. They're being tested in the field. These weapons are out of the lab. The United States is investing in them, Great Britain, Germany, Israel, and China are big investors in autonomous battlefield robots and drones. So, as an AI thinker, trying to think about solutions and trying to think about what to do now, me and people like me, look at analogs from the past. What have we faced before that's anything like this? And again, there's no technology that's really like this because there's no technology that can outwit us. And wits are our superpower. But there is a technology that's tracking, that AI is tracking very closely that I want to draw your attention to, and that's nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is the power behind nuclear power plants and nuclear bombs, as you know. In the 1920s and 30s, they thought of nuclear fission as the way to split the atom and get free energy. And then this period of utopia would follow. Just like the singularity, which is this period of utopia that's supposed to follow the time when we share the planet with smarter than human machines. But what happened with fission? Well, we incinerated 2 cities full of people right away. It was weaponized. And then we held a gun to our head as a species for 50 years. We threatened ourselves with extinction twice it almost happened. Just the other day, Vladimir Putin threatened the United States with a new super nuclear weapon. Like the old ones weren't good enough. There's a super duper one now. And then, I'm sure Donald Trump will tweet about a super duper duper one. There was no maintenance plan for that technology. It was developed in wartime. It's kind of understandable, but then after the war, there was still no maintenance plan. There was no way to guide that technology. There were no decision makers. There wasn't any transparency or openness. Instead, there was a nuclear arms race that still threatens us. There's no maintenance plan for AI. I think AI is a more sensitive technology than nuclear fission, and we have no maintenance plan for it. Instead, we have a lot of corporations and companies, corporations that are interested in their quarterly reports and making products. They're not specialists in ethics. They're not that interested in ethics. They're making, the companies are interested in the bottom line. The countries are interested in power. And nobody is really interested in stewardship. We have this recurring problem with technology as humans, that our innovation runs way ahead of our stewardship. We innovate something and then our stewardship and our intelligence about it chases behind. It's almost killed us with nuclear fission. It's almost destroyed us. The same attitude will not work with artificial intelligence. Is there a solution? Well, I'm not sure I'd be talking if I felt there was a solution. I'm not sure I'd be speaking, and I'm not sure I'd be ringing the alarm bell about this if I thought there really was a solution. But there are some hopeful signs. Congress just had a hearing about AI, which was unexpected, because they're starting to catch this message. And these organizations have been working hard with small budgets. The Machine Intelligence Research Institute has been around thinking about this since the year 2000. That's a long time. Their budget is about $500,000 a year. The Future of Life Institute was founded by Max Tegmark, the physicist he's a physicist at MIT. He just wrote a book called Life 3.0, which I endorse, which you should read right after mine. They're doing great things. Their budget is about, they just got a $10 million grant from Elon Musk. So if they can keep that up, their budget is $10 million a year. The Center for the Study of Existential Risk and the Future of Life Institute have been around for just about 2 or 3 years, and I'm not sure what their budgets are. But their techniques and what they're trying to do, they're trying to bring AI out into the open so it's transparent. You know, we have the IAEA, the International Association the International IAEA, of Atomic Energy Association. We have that demands transparency with the development of fission. We need something like that for the development of AI. I hate to say it, we need government regulation. I never say, it hurts my mouth to say that, but I think that's what it'll have to come to. What I hope you get from what I've talked about is that human level intelligence in a machine is just around the corner, and even if it's not, we need to think about it. It's a stepping stone to artificial superintelligence. And artificial superintelligence is not only uncontrollable, but its makers aren't thinking about how to control it. Thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to have some questions. Please wait for me to bring the mic to you. But one of the advantages of having the mic is you get to ask the first question. I've heard a lot of stuff about how current AI is being used, and it's making decisions currently for businesses, but those programmers have admitted themselves they don't know how it's making that decision.
Yeah.
And can you talk about that briefly?
Sure. Well, there are, and this is another security issue that I talk about in our final invention, and that's black box systems. Black box systems, like artificial neural nets and genetic algorithms, are systems that you know what the inputs are because you put in the inputs. You feed it a lot of data, for example, and then the outputs you can see. You can feed it a lot of translation, and the output is good or bad translation, but you don't know in any sense, in any, even a low resolution sense, what's happening in those layers of neural nets. It's too complex. We can't see it. We can't see the program. So all the quants on Wall Street, quants is the name for guys that program the algorithms that buy and sell 67% of the stocks, don't know, they'll say it, I don't know what's going on in the program. We just know if it's performing well or not. Now that's fine, that might be okay for stocks. It's not gonna be so okay when those neural nets are involved in sensitive, secure systems like self-driving cars. These systems are in self-driving cars. Artificial neural nets right now are the lead technology in self-driving cars. If that car has an accident, there's really no way of knowing if it's, what exactly, what decision it made, except from exterior data. There's no black box available. It is a black box. So that's what that means.
Other questions? Yep, right here.
It seems that most AI that's now isn't really intelligence, but it's mimicking intelligence. And then so the question is when will it go over from the mimicking to to actually being intelligent? And also, what does self-awareness play in this?
Those are two really good questions, and both of them are pretty hard. Self-awareness and consciousness, like right now we have programs that are self-aware in a rudimentary way. Your Roomba that's vacuuming your floor has a model of itself and its space around it. So you could say, and it's mapping its space around it, and it knows where it is. So that's like a crayfish-sized self-awareness. If you're talking about self-consciousness, that's a whole other thing. And we don't know enough about consciousness. We don't know if it's an emerging, if it emerges from complexity, which people sort of think, but how exactly does it emerge? And when do machines get really, really smart? If you deal with Watson, I got a chance to sit with Watson and ask it some Jeopardy-like questions, you get the sense that it's pretty smart right now. And that was like, I did that in like 2012. I'm sure that IBM is going to come out. IBM is really good, like Microsoft. They bring out products and they bring out ideas, and they're not afraid to test them in front of the world. Before Gary Kasparov beat Deep Blue, before Deep Blue beat Gary Kasparov, it lost twice, and it was public. And when they went on TV with Jeopardy, they didn't know they were going to win. So, I think that's. I think that question, it remains to be seen when they become, convincingly smart. I'm not that impressed by any of the digital assistants right now. I think Cortana is probably in the lead, Microsoft Cortana.
Other questions? Back.
What would you say would be the biggest fear and biggest benefit for fully AI autonomous robots?
Oh, wow. The benefits are absolutely amazing. And that's why, despite the title of my book, I'm really a giant fan of AI. As I said, it's a deep look at who we are. And the best use to me won't be robots, but thinking machines, not physical robots, but thinking machines. And the best use will be things like cancer research and pharmacological research, coming up with really powerful drugs, and climate modeling. So we know, wouldn't it be great to ask a machine, what precisely do we need to do about climate change? What's the best feasible technique? So I think answering our toughest questions would be the best use. The worst use, of course, is weaponizing AI. We're seeing this nasty confluence of malware, bad software, and AI right now. And that's a nightmare that I haven't really gotten much into, but I know it's not going to be pretty.
Okay, other questions over here?
Do you think there will be a international shift, and from that causing either a change in human rights, whether it worsens or benefits human rights problems and activism?
A change towards human rights, like a resistance to computers? I think so. Yeah, I think once the there's this idea called universal basic income that you've probably heard about, and that's the idea that if a lot of people get unemployed and can't be retrained for other jobs because those jobs are also going to be automated or done by AI or robots, then you'll send them a check. And they're doing a test in some county in California right now. And the idea is they send you a check for $1,000 a month, keeping you just above the poverty line. And that's supposed to mollify us, and so that the guys making a lot of money can not have to deal with us. It's not a good idea for two reasons. One, the dignity of labor. The importance of labor to us. We like our jobs. We identify with our jobs. A lot of us love our jobs. If you took away our jobs, we'd probably, the devil has work for idle hands. We'd probably do something bad. And the other thing is who's going to pay for it? Boy, a check for $1,000 every month to all the people unemployed by AI. Who's going to pay for that? Well, you'd think that the people who are making giant wealth from artificial intelligence, the real, like Facebook, like Amazon, those guys you'd think they'd be paying for it, but in fact, they're incorporated or have established legal entities in Ireland or the Bahamas or someplace where the corporate tax is very low. So that they're not paying taxes where they make their wealth. So Google never bought a street sign or paved a road or paid for a policeman. And so how are we going to pay for basic income, the universal basic income idea?
You talked about the parallels with fission, and at one time they talked about everybody's going to have like a nuclear reactor in their basement and all this and that, and we've kind of gone completely the opposite way. Do you see that happening with AI, where maybe we'll react and actually unplug a lot of stuff? Well,
there's an ethicist named Wendell Wallach at Yale who thinks that we'll have some chastening accident, that there'll be an accident where AI almost gets away and does harm, and then we control it, and then we'll learn. And I think that's I don't know if it might be if that happened, it might be a good thing, but it's hard to talk about a good thing if you think about artificial intelligence involved in sensitive applications like our infrastructure, like water and energy and transportation. It's hard to think of an accident that's stoppable with artificial intelligence, because a bomb goes off and you clean up the debris, AI gets on the internet, and there's no point at which it's over.
Okay, maybe one more question. Do we have one more? Okay.
So you've seen a lot of people, the world, you've traveled. Do you really feel like the human race is ready for AI?
That's a really good question. These are all really good questions, and I thank you for them. If I had, there's a word called relinquishment, and that means let's give up this technology, which we sort of done with some dangerous things. I think we sort of gave up germ warfare, or at least some of us did. I think AI is maybe too sensitive for us. Yeah. I think nuclear fission is too sensitive for us because we're still using it like in a very foolish way. We're still threatening, today's children. And I think AI is more sensitive. Potentially much more rewarding as the technology that will invent technologies. But from what I've seen, I question our ability to control it.
Okay, well, let's give our presenter one more round of applause.